Hi everyone, my name is Yessimkhan. This program is about people from geological science. Today my guest is Rachel Williams. She's doing her PhD at Colorado School of Mines. We'll talk about her experience, research areas. Welcome, Rachel.
Thanks so much for having me.
Firstly, thank you for coming to this interview despite being swamped with your thesis and research areas. I know that you are hitting the books to meet the deadlines. I really appreciate of you.
Appreciate you asking me to be here. It's a great opportunity. Thanks.
Our interview will consist of 3 parts. In the first part, I would like you to introduce yourself so that the audience can know more about you. Then we'll talk about your experience and research areas and some specific questions related to what you are involved in, because you acquired much experience working in different places and learned a lot of integrating different work experiences. I think it would be interesting to know what you can share about your specific research areas.
Great. Let's do it.
So let's begin our conversation, Rachel. Tell me about your education background and work experience a bit.
Yeah, sure. I got a bachelor's degree in math at Smith College in Massachusetts. I went there after growing up in West Texas and New Mexico for most of my life. I then worked as a geotech for about 5 years before going back and getting a master's degree in geology. And that was at the University of Texas at Austin. Then I worked in oil and gas again as a geologist for about 12 years before coming to mines to get my PhD.
Interesting. So why did you choose the Colorado School of Mines?
I wanted to come to mines because I heard of this specific project that I wanted to work on, which I have a sedimentology and stratigraphy background, and the project that I'm working on now also includes structural geology. So I thought it was a really good way to integrate all of those different subdisciplines of geology. I've also lived in Denver for about 6 years now, so it's pretty easy to hop over to Golden.
Interesting. So you worked on your university degrees with huge difference of years in between. What's the main reason of getting such education degrees into me?
Yeah, see, it's really hard to pick just one reason for this. The first reason is, of course, coming from a bachelor's degree in math and going to a graduate program in geology. I spent a number of years figuring out that path for myself and understanding that that was really what I was interested in. And so I ended up taking a bunch of classes at night on my own time to really make sure it's what I wanted to do before going to grad school. And then also, when I did get to grad school, I found that I continued to struggle with things like anxiety, imposter syndrome. These things have affected me all of my life. And it took me a while to work through all of that and get the support I needed. And working for a number of years at Oxy really helped me feel like I was developing my geological skills enough so I could come to grad school again and knock out a PhD.
Rachel, you acquired huge experience working in different companies. What specific part of your experience did you find useful for your PhD dissertation?
It's all been very helpful. I had my master's degree, of course, which is the logic has helped me really learn how to do data analytics, which is a new skill set for me that I've learned now. Being a geotech for 5 years has really helped me figure out how to organize my data and manage data, because we collect so much data now that it's easy to lose track of it if you're not very organized. And then, of course, working as a geologist for a number of years, that really was a good skill set to bring right into the PhD.
Oh, interesting. So tell me about settling to your last job. So what did you do to learn the ropes?
Yeah, so coming in, brand new team, new culture, new challenges, new technical challenges. And I think the first important thing for me to do is to do a lot of reading, read about the fields, read about the geology, asking my mentors and reaching out to my peers and asking for help. is really important, I think, for getting a really good start.
Amazing, Rachel. So we'll move to the next part. Rachel, let's talk about your PhD research. What's your PhD thesis?
Yeah, sure. My research focuses on understanding sedimentological and stratigraphic controls on fracture formation in carbonates. I have a background in carbonates and deep water sedimentology from both my school and work experience. And this is a really great opportunity to integrate that knowledge with my newfound fracture and structural knowledge.
Interesting. I read that your research areas are uh, in different stratigraphic units in Guadalupe Mountains National Park. So, what differences in mechanical packaging and associated fracture dimensions did you find based on your results?
Oh, that's a big question. We're still working on this. The two areas that I'm really interested in looking at are proximal toe of slope settings, where you have more erosion, and distal toe of slope settings, where you have more deposition. So you get different geometries, different surfaces there. And that creates different fracture networks in those areas. So that's what we're trying to figure out is how do those differ.
Interesting. Rachel, you focus on fracture measurements in carbonate outcrops. So, what controls natural fracture developments in carbonate rocks?
That's a big question. It's the focus of our research group now, and we plan to summarize our findings in publication soon.
Well, then we shouldn't spill the beans in advance. So, Rachel, why is your research important?
Nature is never linear, and so we need to have a holistic understanding of complex geological systems in order to solve complex geological problems in the real world. Um, my experience in oil and gas and the extraction industries in general, such as mining and helium, hydrogen exploration, geothermal, this research of combining sedimentological and structural controls to understand the systems as a whole is important for those industries.
Rachel, let's talk about your responsibilities, time management, and the problems you faced. So, have you had a time when your responsibilities were a little overwhelming?
I learned helpful coping skills, which included giving myself grace for not being able to do everything all at once or expecting myself to do that. Also, asking from help from managers to identify real priorities, because if everything's a priority, nothing's a priority. And then also working with my peers to maybe delegate some tasks so everything that gets done on the team, because the most important thing is team success.
Yes, I agree that delegating the task is very crucial for teamwork. But if you're given numerous responsibilities, how would you handle that?
Well, as a self proclaimed overachiever, this is a constant situation. Right now, I'm working on my PhD. I'm serving as a secretary and I'm a performing member of my drumming group. I'm on the reunion cabinet for my undergraduate college. And I am also on the continuing education committee for the Rocky Mountain Association of Geologists. And I mean, it really comes back down to managing your time and being flexible in what the priorities are in at any given time and just going with the flow.
Yes, being adaptable is very important to handle responsibilities. But have you had a time when you had to think on your feet?
Yeah, I remember at one of my drumming performances, we forgot a stand for one of the drums, and it's a small drum. And what we ended up doing is I found a stool and we turned it upside down, put the drum on it, and then we were able to continue our performance.
Interesting. So you found the solution spontaneously. Did you have a time when unexpected problem derailed your planning? So how did you handle that?
This happens in the extraction industries all the time. And, working in oil and gas during drilling operations, you really have to think on your feet. I mean, you can contingency plan. That's one way that you can manage those things, but things don't always go the way that they're planned. And even your contingency plans don't work. So, for example, running wireline logs or taking rotary sidewall cores. I generally like to take the cores first and then run my image logs so I can properly calibrate those two data sets. But sometimes the downhole conditions don't allow for that, and you have to do things the other way. And so, I mean, the best thing that I did in that situation was to really work with my petrophysicists and my other geologists and engineers to figure out the best way how to calibrate those data so we know where the cores fell on the image logs.
So, Rachel, describe a time when you had to learn a new skill quickly.
I think the best example I can communicate is learning how to drum. I play for a group called Denver Taiko, and I had no previous drumming experience before that. And it really, you have to start with the fundamentals. Just what is the big picture? So things like your key, what is the energy that you're putting out there? Or your ma, what is the performance space that you're working in? So having a fundamental understanding of those things helped me learn the actual drumming patterns more quickly.
So, Rachel, have you ever thought about changing your career path over the years?
Yes, definitely. Going from my math degree to a career in engineering was something I considered early on. Then I discovered geology and decided to go back to school and get a degree in geology.
How do you handle feedback and criticism?
I used to really struggle with it. Everything seemed negative to me for a long time, and that's more of a function of my upbringing. And what I've recently discovered is how to accept criticism more constructively because overall people are trying to help. And I found that to be very valuable, and I'm grateful for it. If I get negative feedback, I try to pick out what is useful and see if there's something that needs to be addressed. And this actually happened to me recently when I applied for a grant and was denied. And going back and looking at the wording of my grant, it turns out I probably could have worded things a little bit differently to make that grant application successful.
Rachel, thank you for your time and interview. It was interesting to talk to you about your research areas and experience.
Well, thanks very much for providing the opportunity for me to share it.
Good luck with your dissertation.
Thanks.